Asia can be said to be from Iran to the Pacific and down through the Southeast Asia to Australia. But there is also the zone that cannot be ignored, which is the Middle East. And this is the crux of Asia's and the EU's problem. And I've said many times that we should invade Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Yemen. This must be the focus of short-term European strategy. Or we must have a long-term strategy to de-radicalise those people through education and to develop the infrastructure in such a way that through incrementalism that we overcome the problems of feudalism and terrorism and billionaire crime families, mafias with flags that control these countries, such as the Bin Ladens and such as the Saudis. There's also the problem of North Africa and the influence of China in Africa. What must Europe do? We must have an alliance with Russia. We must have an alliance with Japan so that Russia can supply Japan with oil. Territorial disputes over the northern Japanese islands must be solved by the EU to do this, and there must be also a steady progress made between the EU and Russia to solve the problems over Georgia, Azerbaijan and the Nagorno-Karabakh region because of Azerbaijan's dispute with Armenia. Now, the EU may be cutting, but it's still the second largest military force on the planet. It is second in spending to the United States. But let me just read you some statistics. This is from Wikipedia, which you can check out yourself. The EU has over 1,870,707 active personnel, with a reserve force, which its reserve force is much greater than China's, of 4,500,000. The EU also has 6,895 main battle tanks. It has 3,523 advanced combat aircraft. Its aircraft perhaps are not as good as the F-22, but it has Eurofighter. We are producing some fifth generation aircraft and drone aircraft as well. These are all things that are tools to be used in diplomacy through the soft power method. There's also been deployments and active deployments in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the second largest war since the Second World War has been going on, with over 5 million people killed, and also to Gaza, and a mission was proposed by Javier Solana to Georgia to send EU troops there. But the problem is that the confluence of these unstable Asian states through Central Asia to the prosperous but still unstable states of the Pacific, such as China, North Korea, South Korea and Japan. Japan has been attacked by Al-Qaeda as well, are all being brought together because of the resource hungriness of those economies. And the problem that is that the United States' relationship with China, because of the economic relationship of the flow of petrodollars to China and the Bin Laden crime family, and the flow back of credit from China to the Federal Reserve, which the Federal Reserve then uses to buy up US government bonds and exports its inflation through to the rest of the world, which the EU then ends up, and Japan ends up having to pay. So obviously, this direction points to a symbiosis between China, and since most of Germany and Britain's trade, or the EU's trade I should say, is with the US and Russia, a symbiosis between Russia and the United States and the EU. So which we will have to make a choice between a maritime alliance with the United States and Japan, and a land alliance with Russia. But actually, do we have to make this choice? A maritime alliance would be my personal choice, since I want to make the Atlantic a free trade zone and make it our sea. But Japan is a postmodern power. The EU is a postmodern power. China and America are both industrial powers, although the Americans would like to land onto it with a soft landing and become a postmodern power where their soft power exceeds their military power. But at present, they're addicted to weapons, and their military power is actually harming their overall power to influence the world, because every problem looks like a nail to somebody who's only got a hammer. Now, the EU must make infrastructure projects to open up Central Asia, to get Central Asian oil, to bring Iran in from the cold by removing its government and putting in a democratic form of government, because Iran is only a partial democracy, or rather a military dictatorship. And also, this is the key. The relationship between Iran and China and the EU will be a fulcrum on world events, because the Iranian plateau dominates Central Asia. It dominates the Middle East to the west, and it dominates Pakistan and Central Asia, the Kazakhstan, Caspian Sea region, where most of the world's oil is going to come from when Saudi Arabia is run dry. The Saudis know this, so they're trying to build their own banking industry and infrastructure through construction, which is what the Bin Laden arm of their family is. But the two families are in dispute. There is a real conflict between the Saudi crime family and the Bin Laden crime family, but only over who controls Saudi Arabia, not about whether they want to bomb America or Europe. So therefore, we must ask ourselves, with an America run by pro-Jewish or Jewish people, right, who are pro-Israeli right-wingers, right, Likudites, and a European Union run by Germany and England, basically, can we make this? Can we trust America? Can we trust America to put Europe before Israel? In my opinion, it's a very difficult question to ask, because America is moving more and more towards the Pacific. Israel is an ideological and emotional grip on the American psyche, far more than China and economic policy between the Federal Reserve. Most Americans don't know what's going on there. But America is becoming more of a Pacific country. If Arnold Schwarzenegger was to become president of the United States, then this would solve many problems, because America would move towards clean energy. But overall, the EU must decide as to whether it is a land power and make a decision with Russia, or it will have the freedom that the British Empire had by building up its maritime power. And with our technology and our amount of people, I believe that we can do both things. We can become a maritime power which will have influence, and we can defend Japan and the Pacific realm. The greater realm of the European Union shall have to be found in Russia. And this will not be Lebanon's realm, but a joint partnership with Russia and also with the United States. We must help both Russia and the United States to become more European in their outlook and in how they conduct their foreign policy. It's time for the European Union, the new kid on the block, to start teaching the old dinosaurs how it's done. And soon, I'm sure, we will defeat Al-Qaeda and any expansionist aims that China has. Thank you for listening.